Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day to join us for our monthly webinar series and this month's feature on child care. Before we begin today, a few housekeeping items to discuss. First off, for the WebEx and the presentation, all callers and all audio, everyone that has joined the presentation is currently on mute. If you have something that you would like to ask or a question or you'd like to chat us, there are two places to do that. You can either enter information into the WebEx chat or into the Q&A feature. We're going to attempt to monitor both of these during the webinar, but know that it might take us a few seconds to notice. We would prefer you to use the Q&A section if possible. In addition, our presentation you'll see is kind of in the middle left of your screen. To make this presentation full screen, in the presentation window is where you can see our title slide here with the child care. You scroll to the top right corner of the window where you can see two arrows pointing away from each other. You click the arrows and it will make the presentation full screen. We will have trivia questions throughout this presentation. We'll have two. The first to answer will receive a prize. We will have a dedicated question and answer section at the conclusion of this presentation. So as stated before, if you do have a question throughout, you can ask it, but know that we will have a dedicated time at the end of the presentation to take questions. We are recording this, and we will send along the slides along with the recording to all the attendees. The timing of our presentation, we're hoping to keep this to about 20 to 25 minutes long. Also note that we are based in California here, and most of our customers and our agents are in California, so we're going to focus on California-based risk today. If you're interested in other states, please email us, and we will get the information needed for other states. Who am I? My name is John Poucher. I'm the Sales and Marketing Manager here at Abram Interstate Insurance Services. Most of you are current customers of ours, so thank you for your business and thank you for your time. And some are evaluating our services and are interested in the child care product and has brought you to this presentation today, so welcome. Along the call today with us is two folks from United States Liability, actually three folks from United States Liability Insurance Services, Lindsay Kahn, Evan, and Sarah Benson, and I'll let Lindsay and Evan and Sarah introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lindsay Kahn. I am with USLI. I'm a travel underwriter, and I'm also the assistant product leader for our child care product. I've been with USLI about 3 years, and before USLI, I was with another company for 15 years. So welcome.
Hello, my name is Evan. I'm a travel underwriter at USLI and also assistant product leader with Lindsay of our child care product. I've been in the industry for about 5 years now and with USLI for about 1. Sarah?
I am Sarah Benson, and I am a commercial lines underwriter here in Mission Viejo. So I am in California with most of you, and I am the commercial lines underwriter that works with Abram currently. So I'm excited to hear what Lindsay and Evan have to share today.
Thank you, guys. For our presentation today, we are briefly going to go over what's eligible in the child care product and go over the coverages and limits and advantages. We're going to talk about how the regulations and what's affecting this product from a regulation standpoint, show you and tell you the different ways that you can quote the product, and like I said, have a question and answer feature at the end of this presentation. And again, we're going to try to keep it to 20 to 25 minutes for everyone. Why partner with Abram and USLI? Abram Interstate Insurance Services, we've been 20 years in business now. We're privately held and operated. We have a consistent growth from 3 to 21 employees. Our market focus is commercial, agribusiness, and personal lines. We have a friendly, energetic team, and we're here to help. One thing that people really like about us is that we do answer the phone. We do not have any phone trees or automated attendants, so when you call our main line, you will talk to a live human being that can help you get to the right area of focus that you have a question or a need for. United States Liability Insurance, USLI, they are a Berkshire Hathaway owned company, so they are an AM Best A++ rated company, so very stable and secure. They focus on their products and being very innovative on their products. They're headquartered out of Wayne, Pennsylvania, which is just outside of Philadelphia. But as Sarah mentioned earlier, they do have regional offices throughout the country, and Sarah is actually down in their Mission Viejo office in California. So they have boots on the ground here in California and do know the market here very, very well. And Lindsay.
Okay, again, thank you for coming. So I just want to talk a little bit about some demographics in California, and basically we're here to give you some information on childcare and why it's important for these facilities to have insurance. In California, there are over 40,000 childcare facilities, with the majority of those being in-home care. With over 9 million children and almost 4 million homes having children, especially with 2 working parents or even a one-parent household, it's very important these children need somewhere to go during the day to be watched. So there's definitely, as you can see, an opportunity for us to write this business. The owners of these businesses need coverage for obvious reasons, injuries, children get hurt all the time, and they're usually smaller businesses that might not be able to afford the losses on their own, so they should have some kind of insurance in place. This is mostly important also for residential business owners, because most homeowners policies will not include or even write the coverage unless the insured has a commercial policy for the business. So as you can see, there's definitely a need out there, and there's some opportunity for you to write this business. So what is a child care? We define a child care as a facility that's providing care, supervision, and guidance for some portion of a 24-hour period to children between the ages of 6 weeks and 12 years old. This is the care that is in the absence of a parent, custodian, or guardian. What is not child care? Some of the things that we do not consider as child care are listed above. These types of agencies or businesses involve a lot more than just supervision of children during a part of that 24-hour period while they're away from their parents or guardians. Especially the schools might be a little shocked that that's an ineligible class for us, since technically daycares are sometimes referred to as schools. Daycares are usually, like I said, going to be in the range from 6 weeks until about kindergarten. We do up to 12 years old, and that's mainly because a lot of these daycares offer summer camps where the children will come up to about between 12 years old and 13 years old to attend those. So we just don't write the schools that have the range of services like the public schools, charter schools, and private schools, because they have a more comprehensive services than a typical daycare center, and our rate does not contemplate all of those extra exposures, and that's why we wouldn't write an actual elementary, grade school, or high school. Our coverage limits, we have one of the broadest forms for abuse and molestation in the industry. Our GL limits for both residential and commercial centers is $1 million per occurrence and $2 million aggregate. The abuse and molestation coverages differ between the commercial centers and the residential centers. Our commercial centers are $1 million per occurrence and $1 million aggregate, so we can write up to that, although we do have lower limits available. For the residential centers, our limits are $100, $300. We feel like those are adequate coverages for those types of exposures, and so that's why we write the lower limits for the residential. The certain and civil criminal proceeding defense cost reimbursement, that reimbursement is coverage that is triggered if, say, an employee of our insured is accused of abuse or molestation, and they go to court and they accrue a defense cost by paying their lawyer to go to court. So basically, if they incur costs for that purpose and they are acquitted of all of the charges, we will pay a cost reimbursement for their charges that they paid to the defense attorney for that. And that limit is $50,000, $100,000 for our coverages. For the professional liability, it basically follows the general liability limits, and the professional liability is if the insured is accused of not providing a professional service to the child. Say if the child doesn't get into an astounded preschool because we didn't teach them the math characteristics or goals that they needed, and a parent came back and said that you didn't teach my child that would be what would be covered under the professional liability coverage. So our coverage advantages, the abuse and molestation coverage, because our policy provides coverage for off-premises, so the coverage follows the insured for any off-premise exposure such as field trips. The abuse and molestation coverage is triggered for coverage for an insured's negligence for hiring, training, or negligent supervision. The one main difference between our residential and commercial abuse and molestation coverage is that residential abuse and molestation is triggered by the acts of the employees only, whereas the commercial is triggered by any individual. So an example of that claim would be if one of our employees is accused of hitting a child or dragging a child, that coverage would come into play for that employee. And the employee on a commercial center is actually going to be covered as a named insured as well. So those are the two differences between the residential and the commercial. For the civil defense, we talked about that a little earlier, about what that is, and gave an example of when that would come into play. So again, our limits are $50,000 per insured and $100,000 general aggregate. Our medical coverage is $5,000, and that includes student med pay, so it eliminates the need for an accident and health policy. That's very different than the industry because a lot of carriers will require them, the insured, to either have an accident and health policy in place, they'll exclude students, or they won't cover it altogether. So that's very different for what we offer than what the industry offers. This coverage will pay for injuries to children, say if they fall on the playground and there's medical expenses. It's more like a goodwill coverage. It doesn't have to do with negligence. We will pay that if they present medical bills to us. And then the professional liability is that, again, failure to render those professional services, which we gave a little bit earlier, an example of that.
All right, it's that time. Time for our first trivia question. All right, how this works, I'm going to ask a question and give 20 seconds for answers to come in. All answers need to be typed into either the chat or Q&A boxes. If you're on full screen mode with the presentation, you can move your cursor to the top of the screen and a menu bar should appear and provide you the options to chat or provide a Q&A. The first answer that is correct, or the closest to answer after 20 seconds, will win a $20 Amazon gift card. All right. What is the age range of an eligible child care facility? You see number one. Chat, no. 6 weeks to 12 years old. There we go. Mark Jenkins. You got it, bud. Good job, man. We have our first winner. And Mark, we have your contact information and we'll provide that prize to you. All right, Lindsay, back to you.
Okay, great. Thanks, John. Congratulations, Mark. And so for regulations, we talked a little bit about our coverage advantages and what a daycare is. So now we're going to go ahead and go over some of the regulations and how the centers are monitored. So most times with commercial centers, they will be monitored by the state. The residential ones differ depending on what county they're in or how many children they have. Some of them may or may not have to be evaluated or monitored by the state. So for the purposes of regulations, right today we're going to talk about the commercial centers. So the owner of the commercial center normally will apply for a license. In order to be approved for that license, the state will come in for an inspection and they will evaluate these things. This is basically what the state will look into and evaluate and make sure that they have in place before they are able to get a license. So some of this includes the background screening. They will identify the license capacity, written emergency plan, staff-to-child ratios, application process. They'll tell them how to do the process and what application is needed, what documentation is needed for the students, and they'll monitor all that by doing inspections. The one thing I wanted to talk about was the license capacity. The license capacity for a center is based on the square footage of the center. So the state will come out and they will measure the inside and the outside of the center and determine what that license capacity will be, and that's what you'll see on their license. So that is determined by the state and the square footage of the center. Okay, so there are three things to take into consideration when referring to children at a child care center. We look at license capacity, which we just talked about as far as how many children they're allowed to have at the center. There's going to be an enrollment number, which is the total number of children that are enrolled in the program. This number can be more than the license capacity, and that's because the child care centers are so fluid with children coming in and out, part-time, full-time, summer camps and things like that, after-school programs, that they're not always going to have the same number of kids on premise at any one time. And then there's average daily attendance, or the maximum number of children on site at any one time. So the younger the child, the more the staff that's needed. So if you look at the chart, this is California's numbers. So this is what the state of California refers to how many staff are allowed in the room with the children for those staff-to-child ratios. So for 6 weeks example, they need 1 staff for every 4 children. So if you have 8 children, you need 2 staff in that room. For the purposes of our policy, we follow the California state staff-to-child ratios. So we go by what these are listed here. And that's for commercial centers. For residential centers, we're a little bit different. We don't follow the state because, as we talked before, the state doesn't always regulate the residential child care. So our number for residential is a 1 to 6 ratio, no matter what age group. Okay, so we talked about ratios. So now I want to explain our target classes and the numbers that we feel are acceptable. So for residential, as we talked about, it's a little bit different because it's not regulated by the state sometimes. So if we have one that's not, we like to not go above 18 children. So if it's above 18 children, it would not be eligible with us. The small family homes we consider 1 to 12 children, and the large family homes is 8 to 18 children. For commercial centers, we do not have a cap on the license capacity. Basically, what we go by as far as what's acceptable for commercial centers, we will write nursery schools, preschools, Montessori schools, 100% drop-in centers, before and after school programs, mommy and me centers, and we also write new ventures. So what do we base our rating on? Our product is admitted in California. So even though John said we are an A++ rated company, if it were not admitted, we're still stable, although you don't have to worry about that because we are admitted in California for this product. We base our rate on the average daily attendance. So now, however, sometimes we don't know if the risk is a newer risk, then we will go based off of the license capacity, 50% of the license capacity. So basically, we go based off of the average daily attendance, or if the business has been in business for more than three or more years, we'll go based on 75% of the license capacity or the average daily attendance, so whichever is greater. So if the average daily attendance is greater than 75% of the licensed capacity, then we'll go with the average daily attendance. If it's not, then we'll go with that 75%. If the business is newer, we feel that newer businesses are not always up to capacity, and so we'll go with the 50% of that. So, for example, if a business is a 3 or more year business and the license capacity is 50%, but the average daily attendance is 30, then 75% of 30 is 22.5. So we would use 30 as our rating basis because 30 is higher than the 22. Okay, so our eligible exposures, we talked a little bit earlier about how we can go off premises, and our policy follows that. So we can do certain off-premise field trips, including trips to public pools. We can consider pets, new ventures, any license capacity, and certain special needs children up to 20% of the enrollment. Some of the ineligible things that we do not want are risks that have swimming pools or water hazards on premise. We don't want a sick child facility where people are just dropping off children that are sick and need care because the regular child care will not take care of them. We don't like violations for background checks or inadequate staff-to-child ratios, and also prior license revocation or suspension. Those are things that we don't really budge on because we feel like those are things that we would not want to, as a parent, I wouldn't want to send my child to a child care center like that, so we try to look for ones that don't have those violations. We also require a 100% fenced-in play area, and we do not write centers that are open more than 18 hours a day.
All right, time for our second trivia question. Again, type all answers into either the chat or Q&A boxes found in the WebEx presentation. We will give 20 seconds to answer. First to get the correct answer exactly or closest to the answer at the end of 20 seconds will win a $20 Amazon gift card. All right, 20 seconds on the clock. What is the Abram Interstate Instant Quote InSync hotline phone number? Mark, you're just on it, man. Really good job. Mark won again. Great job, Mark. Looks like Michael might have gotten it too. Yeah, we'll give it to Michael too. Congrats, guys. Congrats, Mark. Okay. All right, so how to quote the child care product. We have multiple ways to be able to quote the child care product with USLI. They allow us a couple automated ways and a couple tools for you guys to be able to easily quote this product. One of them being the phone and the InSync hotline that Mark and was just a trivia question. If you call 888-845-1626 between Monday and Friday, between 6 a.m. Pacific and 5 p.m. Pacific, you can get a quote directly over the phone through USLI and their folks back in Philadelphia. They stay till 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for us to be able to quote from 2 to 5 p.m. Pacific Time. How that process works is you call that number, they ask you the product you'd like to quote, you let them know, and they direct you to a product specialist who then goes through a series of questions with you over the phone. They ask for your email, and by the time you hang up, or right after you hang up the phone with them, you'll have the quote emailed directly to your desktop. Most quotes take 5 minutes or less. They're very simple, very easy, and the folks there are amazing at providing this service. Or you can go on the web. They also offer an online rating tool where you go to our website at abraminterstate.com/online quote system. You can scroll down to the commercial area, and there will be a child care link there. You click on that, and it will bring up a login screen. If you have a login, you go ahead and log in. If you do not, there is a self-register button. You do not need to contact Abram Interstate to get a login. You can self-register on that screen. You register and log in, and then you can quote from there. If you do ever get tripped up on the web, you can call that 888-845-1626 number, and they'll ask you for a quote number and find the quote that you did on the web and help you through the rest of the process. And of course, we'll always take any paper applications, whether it be a cord form or a specific company application. We typically prefer USLIs. But we can, on occasion, quote off another company application as long as all the needed information is on it. Currently, we have an incentive running April 15th through June 15th. To obtain incentive guidelines, go to our website and select Incentive button. But it's pertaining to activity based upon phone and web quoting. And the phone quoting is a lot easier and more effective. If you see the statistics down there, on a submit to quote basis, 96% of the time when our agents call that dedicated phone number, they get a quote, compared to only 64% of the time on the web. And when they call the phone number, they get a bind rate at 34% versus 19% on the phone or on the web. So the phone is very effective. Because you're actually talking to a live human being who can help you understand the risk and understand the product and help you answer the questions that best pertain to your insured, versus the web, being black and white and not really having wiggle room on an online rater. So with this feature, you can call and web quote childcare, obviously, but you can also quote, as you see here, a long list of other products that USLI offers, artisan contractors, to lawn care, liquor liability, restaurants, to some professional nonprofit products, nonprofit D&O, property managers, cyber, EPL, and personal lines products as well. Personal umbrella, CPL, we get a lot, comprehensive personal liability as well. So they offer a wide array of products. Lindsay?
Okay, so with our policy, if you have an insured that has a policy with us, we have a center called the Business Resource Center that is offered with all of our policies free of charge. So with that comes a human resources, pre-employment screening, payroll and taxes, cyber risks, marketing, and safety. So basically what this is a third-party vendor for these small businesses that can't afford to have human resource departments and things like that to manage their business. It's a number that they can call, that they can speak to a human resource specialist if they have questions about EPL, how to hire people, workers' comp questions, or anything like that. The main advantage for the child care area is the pre-employment screenings. We offer them at a discount, so they're a lot cheaper than trying to go out on their own to get these screenings completed. And as you saw before in the prior slides, it is something that is required for them to be licensed. And it's also a good thing for them to have for security as well. The other thing that's not listed on here that we just recently added is what we call Permission Click. And Permission Click is a data base that the Child Care Center can upload field trip permission slips, and instead of having paper items all over their office, they can upload them to this database, and the parents can sign them and upload them so they're all in one spot. So those are two of the main advantages of the Business Resource Center for these child care centers.
Thank you very much, everyone, for joining our webinar today. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to join us and learn more about the child care product. Our hope is that you learn more about the product that can help you sell the product and help any potential insureds that you have already to provide this product with them and give them the adequate coverage that they need. Hope that you learned how to better know how to quote the product as well, and any resources that you might need to be able to ask questions about potential